Today's chapel speaker, his name is Justin Torrence, and he is from Chicago area, but he now lives in Atlanta, Georgia. He is an actor, and among other things, and I'm sure he'll tell you more about that adventure of how he got to that point. But he's the lead actor in a nationally acclaimed film, The Heart of Man, and we're going to be talking with him today. It's actually going to be a little different style. We're going to do actually an interview with him today. So Kevin Larson, the resident educator from the north side, he's going to come up and he's going to lead an interview with Justin. And so, but before we get into that, we want to show you just a snippet of the film, just to give you some context about what it's about, and also to give you a little preview for tonight when we're going to be doing the movie screening. And so if we want to go ahead and roll that film now, and we'll go ahead and get started.
Many of us are still trying to prove that we are enough by the very law that tried to prove to us that we're not enough. When he calls us a saint, he makes an incredible statement about us. We are no longer defined by being a sinner.
I got caught January 4th, 94. I get a call, and Kim says, "I'm waiting for you at your office." And I know. That's the whole phone call. And what she knew, and I knew that she knew when she said it, was that I was in a 3-month affair with one of her best friends at the time.
When I choose to run from him into the darkness, he's with me in the room, and he's not angry, and he's in love with me deeply, and his facial expression is fixed on mine, and he's loving me.
isn't just about the struggle with lust. Lust is desire gone mad. So every man, every woman struggles with lust for something that fills something of our emptiness.
I see this kind of vision take over my line of sight. And I remember I was in prison. And my hands were cuffed together, and I had a tray of food, and I was walking in the cafeteria in prison past all these tables, and no one would let me sit with them. And I found my own table, and I sat down, and in walks Jesus. And he's dressed in prison clothing, like me. And he sits down across the table from me, and he doesn't say anything. And I asked him, I said, "Will you eat another meal with me?" And he said, "I'll eat with you anytime you want. By the way, the door's open. You can leave anytime you want." Man, I melted. It's unconditional, unfailing, present love. But for him to be with me in my addiction, and in sickness, and in relapse over and over and over again, that's what changes me.
He has come to set us free to be fully human and fully alive.
He's wild about us when we sin. He's wild about us when we don't. He's wild about us in the past and the future. So God knows my sexual sin that's going to be committed 2 years from now. And he's still crazy about me, and it doesn't make it less difficult, but in many ways, it makes the taste of goodness so powerful that it's not that we're just saying no, we're actually far more saying yes to what God has for us.
Yeah, give it up.
Check.
So,
sorry, I just have to get my coffee.
Oh yeah, sure. Don't show the students though; they're not allowed to have coffee in here.
I knew I was gonna be breaking the rules. Sorry.
Hey, to introduce myself a little bit, so a lot of you might know me, but for those of you who don't, yeah, I'm Kevin Larson. I live on the north side. But specifically for this morning, probably even if you know me a lot, you might not know that I lead a couple different sexual recovery groups online. I've been doing it for about 7 years now. And I've been praying for a movie like this movie. And so when I saw it, when it came out, and it's actually on Netflix and easily available for everybody to watch. But when I first saw it, I just was like, how do I get this somehow on campus? And a few phone calls later, I didn't even know I was talking with the main actor when I called.
That's the beauty of independent filmmaking. You do 3 things at the same time. I was like, who's this? I'm like, this is Justin T. Try to stay anonymous.
Yeah, so anyway, Justin is the main actor of Heart of Man, and we get to spend our next moments learning about him. We're gonna watch the film together tonight, and we'll say more about that but later. But for now, Justin, just kind of tell us your story. How did you get involved in acting, and why is this role something you said yes to?
That's a lot. I'll answer all those things. First of all, thank you for having me, Kevin and Ryan. You guys have people that care about you here that really pull a lot of strings to make this happen. So let's thank these guys. Where are you guys from? I hear you guys are You guys aren't all from Kansas, are you? No. How many of you, when you were driving to school for the first time, were like, what have I done? Last night, in preparation for today, I'm on my GPS. I'm like, where's the nearest Starbucks? I'm like, 50 minutes? I don't think since the existence of Starbucks I've been anywhere that was 50 minutes from the nearest Starbucks. And I've been all over the world.
We got one right
And I pulled up this morning and I see the sign. There is a God. This little sign right out here. I'm like, the Lord, He's good. He loves me. So, I'm with you. It was funny when I pulled into town. I'm originally from the Chicago area, suburban Chicago. Anybody from Chicago area? We got 2 or 3. You guys from downtown or the suburbs? South side. I lived in the southwest suburbs. I went to Olivet. You guys have probably heard of Olivet, where the Bears train. That's where I went to school at. It's kind of like this, out in the middle of a cornfield, about an hour outside of Chicago. But it felt kind of like that. It reminded me of the cornfields of Illinois. And also, I spent probably 13 years of my life in rural Georgia. I used to live in a town called Pine Log, Georgia. Anybody here from Georgia? Nobody from Georgia. When I pulled into town last night, I was hungry, and it was 10:30, and I'm like, I don't think there's anywhere to eat around here. I saw Casey's, and I'm like, I want to wake up in the morning, I don't know if I'm going to eat there tonight. And I found a Wendy's, and I was excited, right? Because I'm 37 now, so enjoy the metabolism while you guys have it, because it changes. So I gotta like put effort into staying in shape, you know? But when all that was available was Wendy's, I got excited because I'm like, well, Lord, it's a sign. This is all I can eat, so I'm gonna go hard. I'm going into the pain on this one. Like Baconator fries, double bacon cheeseburger, large Frosty. And I was just smiling. I'm like, the Lord's so good to me. So I had a cheat week last night in one meal, and it was great. Yeah, I grew up in suburban Chicago. Moved to Georgia when I was, I think, 11. I'd been in a place that was a little more like Pine Log, Georgia, than like Chicago. So anyway, I was immediately out of place, and I'm sure some of you guys felt this way when you came here to Tabor College. And I was listening when I went through the drive-thru last night at Wendy's. I'm like, I don't know, Kansas is it's a wild card. Are these guys more kind of southern, you know, are they more Midwestern? And I didn't hear the accent, because I was listening for the southern accent, and then I heard the lady at the intercom talking to people in front of me, and she's like, is that all for you guys? I'm like, I'm in the Midwest. In the South, everything's y'all, and everything is Coke. Like, what kind of Coke y'all want? I'm like, regular Coke. I'm like, what kind of Coke is there? Dr. Pepper, Sprite? I'm like, those aren't all Coke. What are you talking about? So it was like a total culture shock for me to go there. I remember being in class. I was in the 6th grade, and I had never heard anybody like demand that you say, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes, sir, no, sir. I'm a city kid. I'm totally out of the water, fish out of the water here. And I remember sitting in class, and the teacher saying, Mr. Torrence, did you do your homework? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, Mr. Torrence, did you do your homework? I was like, yeah. Mr. Torrance, did you do your homework? And I'm like, yes, I did my homework. He's like, you will say yes, sir, no, sir. And I was like, and I was just like, what's going on, man? I felt like somebody was hosing me down with a fire hydrant hose, you know? And it was so wild to even walk through the line at the cafeteria. And you guys ever heard of anybody drinking buttermilk? Like that you cook with? This stuff, it's like sour milk and it's super thick. It's like halfway created yogurt, basically. And I see kids this is an option. In elementary school, they have these little milk cartons, and they're grabbing these, and they're drinking it. I'm like, let me smell it. Oh my God, you're drinking that? And I'm like, we love it. You know? It's just like, and I never heard of okra. You guys ever heard of okra? Has anybody heard of okra until just now? Please raise your hand. I feel you. Yeah. I never heard of okra. It's a vegetable, and it's deep fried because you're in Georgia. And they're like, you want your okra? I'm like, I don't even know what it is. Do I want it? And my friends are like, yeah. My one friend's like, no, you want to give it to me. And I'm like, okay, I'll try okra. And it's one of the best things you're ever going to put in your face. It's deep fried, right? It's the South. Anyway, I was a fish out of water. You guys probably felt a little bit that way when you came out here to Tabor. But there were so many beautiful things about it. Playing outside in the country, for hours and hours and hours after school and all this stuff. Anyway, I graduated high school, and I remember when I was getting close to graduating high school, and some of you probably still are thinking this question. I remember somebody asking me, what do you want to do with your life? And I was like, I have no idea what I want to do. To me, what sounded cool was I kind of just want to travel the world and make friends and stuff like that. And I'm like, I don't think that's a job. But that's actually what I'm doing now, so it's pretty cool. And my journey to getting that place where I get to travel and meet people on a regular basis it's almost never a straight path, And if you think you're going to do exactly this thing, you're almost not going to end up there. It's more than likely. Our paths in life are very crooked, and they have hills and all this stuff. And we end up usually somewhere a little bit different than where we thought we were going to end up. But it's beautiful. And so after I graduated high school, I remember I had been an artist my whole life. I had always drawn and painted and sculpted and stuff like that. And I had some scholarship offerings for the Art Institute of Atlanta. And I'm like, cool, man, I'll go check this out. That was not the place for me. That was like a second culture shock. I'm walking around like, this is 1999 when, now in our culture, things like homosexuality are more normal. It was not normal back then. So to go from a country school to the big city to an art school, I was just like, what is that guy's wearing a dress. Dear Lord, And it was culture shock all over again. I'm like, I don't think I can survive here, man. This is not my cup of tea. So I ended up not going to school and went into my family business, which was construction. And spent a couple years doing that. And there was something deep inside of me, though, that told me there is something more. There's something else for me. There's something else I want to do. This is not my lot in life. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I actually still do some carpentry, and I enjoy it when I don't have to do it. I enjoy it when I get to choose to do it. Anyway, so I went on this journey of trying to find out what was right for me. And in the middle of that, I had, so a little bit about my spiritual journey. Grew up in a Christian home, and I know that not everybody here came here because it's a Christian school. I know people came here because you got scholarships or whatever, and maybe even if you did grow up in a Christian family right now, you're saying like, I don't know if this is for me, what do I believe? Have I ever actually experienced God, or do I just believe what I believe because I've been told to believe that? I understand all those things, and so does God. He's not intimidated by your questions, so don't worry about that. It's okay to be honest with where you're at. And I was in this place of being like, I believed, but I had not been living this life as what you think as a Christian, And I'd had some experiences when I was younger where I believed that Jesus was who he said he was, and I believed that he was the way to salvation. I believed that he was the one that forgives sins. And I remember asking to forgive me of my sins when I was young and had, very real experience as a child. But as I got older into high school and stuff, and I'm in this transition of life, what am I going to do with my life, and who am I, and all this stuff. I remember moving back to Chicago, and I actually, on my own, started to be like, if God is real, if the things I read in the Bible are real, and God actually does miracles and stuff like that, then I want, the king, the king of the universe, the guy who made all this, for sure, I'd want to hang out with that guy. I'm like, that sounds like fun, right? It's like knowing the richest person in the world. I'm like, that's going to be a great adventure. Why not roll with this guy? So I remember thinking all right, Lord, I believe in you, but, if you are this personal, where you actually do these things in people's lives, I want to know you that way. And it wasn't long after that, I remember getting a phone call from my dad. He's down in Georgia, I'm up in Chicago, and he was a youth pastor, a volunteer youth pastor. He did construction as well. But he's like, hey man, taking the kids on a trip this summer to Florida. I need some chaperones. I'm like, do you know who you're talking to right now? You want me to chaperone your youth trip? I'm like, bro, you do not want me to be a chaperone for your youth trip. He's like, nah, man, it'll be good. I'm like, I'm not the best example. He's like, I know. I just need adults who can keep these kids from drowning. I'm like, okay, free trip to Florida.
A warm body.
I just need a warm body who can, is above 18 and make sure the kids don't drown in Florida. I'm like, all right, man, free trip, sign me up, I'm your guy. So my goal is I'm just going to be good for a week. I'm not going to sneak off and find the parties or whatever while I'm in Florida. I'm going to, be a good example for the most part. And I'm sitting with these kids in this, big tent they got set up there outside the beach. And this guy who's from the Middle East is speaking. And he was talking about when he believed Jesus. He lived in Iran. And he had to flee the country because his family was trying to murder him. And my mouth was like, what? His family was trying to kill him because he believed in Jesus. And he said, if you lived in a place where people were being persecuted for their faith, would there be no evidence to convict you? And I was like, there's no way. All y'all would be getting shot, and I'd be walking away. Nobody would try to challenge me. They'd be like, oh no, this guy, he's not a believer. Let him go, he's good. And I started thinking, I was like, I don't really want my life to be that where I don't experience what I believe is true because I'm not willing to step over it into the line and just be like, what if? Sure, let's do this guy kind of thing, Because I believe that all that stuff is real and true. I wasn't giving God an opportunity to show off in my life, to show me what he can do. So that was honestly my prayer. It wasn't like, I'm going to be better or any of this stuff. It was like, hey, I've done it my way for a long time. God, your turn. It seems like you can do some cool stuff that's going to wow me. I'd like to see that. Let's do it your way. Have your way. And I'm not even lying. Within months, I had an invitation to go on a mission trip to Europe, to Hungary. And my first thought was like, if it's a mission trip to go build stuff, count me out. I get paid to do that every day. I'm not going to do it for free. And it ended up that we were going to be working at this music and arts festival, which I'm like, cool, an arts festival. I like drawing and stuff, so sign me up for that. When I was over there, I met a guy who introduced me to an organization called Youth with a Mission. You guys ever heard of Youth with a Mission? Anybody? YWAM? Yeah. And he's like, man, you gotta come out to New Zealand to join Youth with a Mission and do this discipleship school. I'm like, New Zealand? I know I've heard of this place. Where is it? Now, mind you, you Kiwi?
Yeah.
Oh, right on, man. So I ended up going just outside of Auckland, in Mangere. You know Mangere? Yeah. And I did this discipleship school. Now, mind you, at this point, not bashing the South, man, but this is the place where you got people saying, what are maps? Kind of thing, So me not knowing where New Zealand was, that was kind of normal. I'm like, I've heard of it, but, So I ended up, crazy story, how I ended up landing in New Zealand, but I did. I mean, even getting in the country was amazing, because you're not supposed to be let into the country unless you have a round-trip ticket. I did not have that. Somehow they let me in. And it wasn't until I was coming back from Indonesia, after we had done some mission outreach there, that I found out that they weren't going to let me in the country, so I had to buy a ticket there. So that, anyway, all these miraculous things. I know we have 10 minutes, so I'm going to kind of fast forward the story into the acting part. Poor Kevin's up here just waiting for his turn to talk. Kevin, tell us about you. Isn't that lovely? Okay. Sorry. So anyway, I end up with this organization called Youth with a Mission. And this is an important part of the story because God, ever since I said, all right, God, you do your thing, have your way, all of a sudden, all these doors started opening that really, for me, really fit me. Like I said, I want to travel the world and meet people, and that's what I started to do, all this stuff, And so it was kind of miraculous, this journey I was on. And I can honestly tell you, This is not some chapel speaker who's a pastor who has this. I can honestly tell you that since I said, God, you do your thing, my life has honestly been more fun than before. Honest to God. Like 1,000 times more interesting. Because God knows us. He knows how He made you. He's interested in you. He actually likes who you are. Every one of us, doesn't matter where you're from, what race you are, what city you're from. God is actually interested in who we are. And I believe that His biggest delight, that, like, why else would He throw us on this earth? You know, like, just to watch us squirm around and struggle for 80 years and then die? Like, that's a horrible plan. God's smarter than that. He, I believe, has two main things, and it all feeds back into one thing. He wants us to be fully alive. It's like, I believe it's like a real joy for Him to see our lives come fully alive. And like the thing that you're passionate about, and you're passionate about, and you're passionate about, and each one of us actually come about. I believe He just gets a kick out of that. And I think the other thing that He wants in our lives is for us to just actually believe that He loves us. You know, after like walking in this message, because this film, right, you see it's about sexual struggle. It's not just about that. Ultimately, it's about a God that loves us no matter what. And after walking with this film for the last year and talking about this all over the world, this film is primarily about us believing that God actually likes who we are. Because when that happens, whatever addictions, whatever distractions in our lives, those things become less important. And we start to actually believe that He really loves us. So now, like when I'm in a church service and, you know, God bless worship leaders, but sometimes, you know, it can be like, you know, the Lord died for us, so He deserves our praise, and He does. But He's not sitting here saying, I died for you, so you guys should worship me. I'm God. Feed me grapes. You know, in the Bible it actually says that He sings over us. He's excited about us. What kind of parent would it be if we were to like give our kids gifts just so they would tell us thank you? It's an egotistical, self-centered, desperate, you know, not, you know, it's not healthy. That's not who God is. That's how we see Him. You know, so even in worship, we get to sing, not because He did all this stuff and we have to. And if we can't sing from an overflow, then that's fine. We don't have to sing together. He doesn't love us any less. We're on a journey of discovering and letting that thing come out of us fully. Like really, you know. 7 minutes left on the clock. Reminds me of 24. You guys ever see the show 24? Every transition to commercial, it's like tick, tick, and you're like, what's going to happen?
So, I know maybe not all of us have seen the film yet. Hopefully that changes tonight. But
Ryan said you get 2 chapel credits if you come tonight, and Stacy said that she's going to bring not quite fully cooked TC bars. Perfectly cooked.
I don't know if
kind of like an undone brownie. Is that? I heard Ryan's like, oh my God.
There will definitely
Ryan
be
promised 2 chapel credits. Whoever comes tonight, and Stacy promised TC bars. Stacy, where are you? Stacy's not even in here. She's busy getting the TC bars put together. There you are.
There will
It's been recorded
definitely
on camera now. You have to do it. This thing is fun. It's powerful. Lightsaber. Thanks, Ryan. Let's show Ryan and Stacy our appreciation, everybody.
But Justin, so there's a lot of different ways a film like this could have been made, where it's kind of male bashing or shame kind of driven. You know, how could you guys look at porn, stop looking at porn? That kind of messaging, but that's not what this film does. And I want you to kind of speak to that. Like, why did you guys choose to go a different route?
Yeah, this film, and I wasn't part of the inception of the project. I got brought in as the actor, and then I've come on board as a sort of co-producer, helping to distribute around the world. And so I wasn't part of the original journey, but it was more discovery process. These guys actually set out. The guys that made this actually made a film called Rape for Profit. which is a very startling title, about the sex trade in Seattle, where prostitution and all this stuff. And they were going out, just a couple of guys, imagine this, guys, they had a camera, they're like, let's go out with the police vice crew, and just like going on these raids, and just like berate these Johns, these guys that are buying for sex, and just like go to their houses and like make them tell their wives and all this stuff, right? It was just like a very like, whoa, these guys are intense kind of thing. Like just shaming these people, right? And in the process of making this film about the root of where all this addiction comes from, they start discovering that shaming people and just saying, stop doing this, will never actually change somebody's actions. Something has to change at the root, and this is for all of us. You know, it's amazing. Some of the most profound testimonies that we've had, stories about how this film impacted, have come from women. I was in Bogota, Colombia, and the girl whose uncle had started one of the biggest churches in the world comes up to me backstage, and she says, this is my story. This film helped me profoundly when I first saw it 6 months ago. I had been addicted to pornography since I was 16 years old. She was like 22, this girl. And she said, this film reframed the way that I think about my brokenness and how God sees me, and now I'm able to walk beside God toward freedom instead of challenging God and trying to get him to accept me when I'm broken. It's a side-by-side journey with God. He's looking at us, he's saying, what do you deal with? I know, dude, or dad, I hate that for you. I want better for you. Let's walk together. It's not a shaming thing. It's not a disgust thing. God's like, I know you. I care about you. I know this is hard. I want better for you. The guy in the chair that's kind of like this with the curly hair, Dan Allender, and that little thing. I love what he says. It's not so much about not doing the bad thing. It's so much more about getting a taste of the great thing that God is offering us and eating that, feasting on the good thing. We talk about the better yes all the time. This is what I have with the guys that made this film, is we have this close-knit brotherhood where we can tell each other anything. We can ask each other anything. And it's not this thing of like, dude, do better next time. I'm always reminding them, they're always reminding me, what's the better yes? Like, what do you actually want in life? And then you stop and think, it's like, I actually don't want pornography, because that actually doesn't satisfy. What I really want is deep connection with a real woman who's going to be by my side through thick and through thin. That's what we all want. That's what girls want. That's what God... We all want that deep connection. That's our deepest desire. So it's about fighting for the better yes. It's about saying, I want real life, something that's going to actually satisfy me. So it's more about that than about anything else. So the reason why Ryan has promised 2 chapel credits to everybody that comes tonight. I told Ryan I was upset. He's like, I don't know if I can. I'm like, it'll be fine. This poor guy. Sorry, Ryan. Kind of. But the reason why he at least halfway him and let me do this is because this film, I've seen this thing 20 times and it still impacts me deeply. I still like get uncontrollable tears in my eyes when I'm watching a film that I'm in. Not because of me, but because of the deep truth about God's love for us. And it impacts me every time. So, with a minute and 20 seconds left, yeah. It's all you, Kevin.
I'll land this plane. So if you are a student in this room, guy or girl, even if you don't currently have any addiction, we still think you should go to this film.
And even if you're not a Christian, or you struggle with things that like homosexuality or anything like that, this is a film that walks deep into your heart and invites God. You invite God to be your friend there, and he wants to sit with you and talk about these things. It's not a shaming thing.
So we want you there tonight. It's going to be at the Heritage Lobby, just right out these doors. It will be at least worth 1 chapel credit. And there may or may not be TCU bars.
TCU bars. Stay.
It's gonna be the best.
Oh, Nacho Libre fans, huh? Come on. I love Tabor College. I'm coming back here every year. They're never gonna invite me again. It's all right, Just talk about more chapel credits and more TC bars next year, that's all.
And even though this film is on Netflix, and you could watch it by yourself in your dorm room, what I tell my guys all the time, the opposite of addiction is not sobriety. The opposite of addiction is connection. And tonight we're offering, as a community, to connect with each other and with God via this film. And it's changed my life, and it has the potential to change yours. I'm going to pray, and then we'll go.
Let me say this real quick. Since I'm already giving away chapel credits and TC bars, I might as well take more chapel time. This microphone is powerful, right? You guys, there's something really cool that happens when people watch this film. We were at a university in Minnesota, and for over an hour after we showed the film, more than half the students sat for an hour with their hand up. Like, this is for college students. Like, college students love this film. They love that it's raw, that it's real, that it's beautiful, that it opens up conversation, that we don't have to, like, tiptoe around certain topics. So this is for you. Like, trust me, you're gonna really enjoy it. So all I have to say, your peers have given it I think like a 96 on Rotten Tomatoes, so come on out.
All right, let's play.
What time?
7.
Get here early if you want to get in line for TC bars. All right, let's pray.
Heavenly Father, you want more than anything us to be free, to freely know who we are, to come alive to our passions, to say yes, and not just to say no, but to say yes to your best for us. And God, the enemy, through porn and other addictions, want to steal that from us. And we give that up when we are so easily led astray by our own desires and lust and all of that. So I just pray that as we kind of speak about this elephant in this room, this huge topic that is so nobody really wants to talk about, as we speak into that, I pray that the silence, with us breaking the silence, you would break in and your Holy Spirit would take this film and tonight and conversation even around the lunch table after this to change hearts and lives in men and women. In Jesus' mighty name we pray. Amen.
Amen. See you guys tonight.